Right, so last night the United Nations General Assembly met and voted in favour of a ceasefire in Gaza, and Israel was anything but happy about this. A two-thirds majority was required for the resolution to pass, and they certainly got it, with 153 countries voting in favour of a ceasefire, 10 voting against it and 23 abstentions. So they smashed it. Alas, it is only advisory. It is not legally binding. It does, however, heap more pressure on the US, who are the ones with all the power to end all of this, yet who instead insist on supporting Israel and continuing with what they're doing. Though that said, they're clearly feeling the heat from the rest of the world right now with their statement following the vote, placing the most distance between themselves and Israel that we've yet seen. But that doesn't equal a withdrawal of support, nor has it seen any contrition by Israel at all, as their UN representative Gilad Erdan, well, he went off on one. Right, so I covered the possibility of Resolution 377A, the Uniting for Peace resolution, being triggered the other day, and I also noted that they could do this avoiding the need for a unanimous vote from the UN Security Council in order to do that if they reopened the 10th emergency special session the last time Resolution 37A was triggered back in 1997, which had been in adjournment since 2006 and was therefore still a live session. Well, as it turned out, this is exactly what ended up happening. Any member state could choose to reopen that case in light of what is happening now, since that session had been originally opened to discuss the Israeli occupation of the occupied Palestinian territories. So it is all extremely relevant and related to what is happening here and now, as much as it did in 2006 or in 1997 when it actually began. Any member state could choose to do that at any time. That the UN has been sitting on this since 2006, though, does show how slowly they do tend to move and how seriously they've been taking this illegal occupation up until now. But the session was reopened upon the joint request of Egypt and Mauritania following the triggering of Article 99 by UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, which in and of itself, still advisory, but was an escalation of the seriousness of which he viewed the ongoing genocide we're all still bearing witness to, and meant that the UN Security Council once more had to convene and try to pass a ceasefire. The Security Council being the body that can pass a resolution that is legally binding. Of course, we know the US yet again used their veto to kill off that chance of a ceasefire. Therefore, we came to Resolution 377A. That came into focus, how that could be instigated, and it was Egypt and Mauritania that did that on the 11th of December, and therefore the General Assembly met to debate the matter and vote on it the following day, last night at time of writing. Ahead of the vote, though, Israeli Representative Gilad Erdan, a man who has made a complete prat of himself already over this matter of what's been going on between Israel and Gaza, back in October, towards the end of October, when the ongoing current conflict had been underway for a couple of weeks, when he turned up to the Security Council wearing a yellow Star of David and demanding that condemnation of Hamas whilst they were debating a humanitarian pause, and said he'd keep wearing that symbol until the Security Council condemned Hamas. Basically, by what he was doing, his actions by wearing this symbol, directly comparing Hamas to the Nazis, it would appear, which, well, I'm not going to get into that, but suffice to say a few people would right now, looking at the situation in Gaza, consider the boot to be on the other foot. But ahead of this vote, Erdan said that the General Assembly finds itself about to vote on another hypocritical resolution. He said, "Not only does this resolution fail to condemn Hamas for crimes against humanity, it does not mention Hamas at all. This will only prolong the death and destruction in the region. That is precisely what a ceasefire means." He also asked a question of the UN representatives assembled in light of Hamas's reason for existence, in his view, to be to destroy Israel and declare it would repeat its atrocities again and again. Why would anyone want to aid Hamas in continuing their rule of terror and actualising their satanic agenda? Here's the thing. If he's right, surely we would have seen attacks by Hamas on Israel since October 7th. We haven't seen any, though, have we? All the fighting since October 8th to date has been by Israel against Hamas in Gaza. Hamas have been condemned for what they did, rightfully. Violence is never the right way. It never works. All peace is achieved through talks, and that requires a ceasefire. You can argue that their actions brought focus back onto this situation where it was being previously ignored, but it shouldn't be the answer. It shouldn't be where we aspire to. We had a brief week-long ceasefire, though, not that long ago. It was not broken by Hamas. It was, however, repeatedly broken by Israel. I would also raise the point that if Israel fears so much for its own existence, trying to eradicate Palestine from existence, its far-right government of Netanyahu, who did a deal with extremists for power who don't accept Palestine exists or has that same right to exist as Israel does. Is that not the height of hypocrisy? Lethally so. Genocidally so. He was asking to be put back in his box, this chap Erdan, but he said a lot more. He went on, he said, I honestly don't know how someone can look in the mirror and support a resolution that doesn't condemn Hamas and doesn't even mention Hamas by name. But you know what? I have an idea. He then proceeded to put up a sheet of A4 with the actual phone number of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. Erdan continued, if you want a real ceasefire, here's the right address. This is the phone number of Hamas's office in Gaza. You can all call it and ask for Yahya Sinwar. Tell Hamas to put down their arms, turn themselves in and return our hostages. This will bring a complete ceasefire that will last forever. No piece of paper, especially one that is adopted by a biased, politicised majority, will prevent Israel from defending itself against those that seek our destruction. Israel is fighting a war for her future. There is not a single member state here that would act differently in a similar situation. Well, I would argue that most other member states aren't in a similar situation because they aren't all illegal occupiers for a start, but the occupied are the ones resisting. So how about you get out of Gaza, get out of the West Bank and get out of the Golan Heights and stop attacking people in their own lands? Do you publish a phone number? Do you go on such an unhinged rant? It was batshit stuff. It's no wonder more and more people are turning against Israel as time wears on. And so after several hours of debate, it came down to a vote on this resolution of a ceasefire, only symbolic alas once more, but it raises the stakes again from Article 99. It shows the Security Council the view of the whole of the UN. It is another escalation. It is more pressure to find a way. Those blocking the path to a ceasefire, i.e. the United States, will be feeling the heat again from their global counterparts over this, saying they want peace but blocking every route to it while supplying arms to Israel. Well, isn't a good look, is it? Most of the planet right now is justifiably condemning Biden and co. for their conduct. 153 countries voted for a ceasefire, 10 voted against, and 23 abstained. A similar vote held in October had some 30 fewer countries backing a ceasefire, so the mood music is definitely shifting against Israel here. The 10 countries that deserve to be named and shamed, frankly, were Austria, Czechia, Guatemala, Israel, Liberia, Micronesia, Nauru, Papua New Guinea, Paraguay, and, of course, the United States. Several of those countries, notably the South Pacific nations, are reliant on the US for funding. Austria has a far-right leadership these days. These may not be big surprises, therefore, to everyone that they were against this, but they were in the minority. Notable abstainers, though, included Argentina, Germany, Italy, Ukraine, of all places, and, of course, us here in the UK. We've shamed ourselves completely on this issue. But Germany, as I spoke about in another video recently, are apparently considering making Israeli support a condition of citizenship there, making their abstention a bit of a surprise. And Argentina have just elected a chainsaw-wielding right-wing extremist, making that abstention somewhat noteworthy as well. A two-thirds majority was required to pass. This was achieved easily, so it passed. It might not be legally binding, but it does heap more pressure on where it needs to be, and the US response afterwards did bear this out a little bit, with Biden being overheard to have said that Israel was starting to lose that support by the indiscriminate bombing that takes place. So they know, they admitted there, the bombing is indiscriminate then. I thought they were sticking to Israel's line that they are targeting Hamas. Of course, this isn't news to us. They've been targeting refugee camps and schools and hospitals. The convoys, the civilian casualty rate has been immense. And there is not 1 ounce of contrition from Israel over any of it. So there's not one speck of tolerance or patience for the genocide that is clearly taking place either. Biden has said Netanyahu has to change his government, but realistically he can't. He had to cobble together this horrible extremist lineup to take power as it was, and without them he can't hold it. So many Israelis themselves want Netanyahu gone, blame him rightly for all of this. Outside of power, the ICC might be more inclined to prosecute him. He's desperate to hold on to the reins of power. But it is way past time he was removed and never elected again. Biden can exert the influence to end this. Netanyahu's political career, though, now hangs, I think, on keeping this going. Most of the world won't tolerate that. So public opinion of both Israel and the US will continue to decline each day. A ceasefire doesn't happen. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video useful. Please like, share and subscribe if you did. More content out daily. Please do have your say on this story in the comments below and be part of the conversation. Meanwhile, here's a video recommendation where I went over the meaning of Resolution 377A and what the point of it is and how we arrived at the point we got to yesterday with this vote. And I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.